What would have happened if approval voting had been used to elect the president in 2016? Is there any way to answer such a question? It turns out that some surveys were done in 2016 that give us a data-driven way of answering the question. This video will explain how I know that. First, let's review what actually happened under our current voting method. In most states, 4 candidates were listed on the ballot, representing the Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and Greens. This chart shows the results of the popular vote. As you can see, Hillary Clinton got the most votes, but still was not above 50%. The Libertarians got more votes than ever, and the Greens got a substantial number. However, the U.S. Constitution specifies that the president is not elected by the popular vote, but by the results of the Electoral College. This is how the Electoral College vote ended up. So it could be argued that the Electoral College was the reason why Trump was elected. However, in this video, we're going to explore an earlier reason, the Republican primary. The first polling data is for May 2015, and some of the candidates hardly have any support at this time. Eventually, 17 candidates would announce that they are running, and the nomination would be given to the one that got the most number of delegates in a series of elections in the various states. Voters would be required to choose just one of the 17 candidates in each election. In addition to the state elections, the Wall Street Journal conducted polls almost each month, asking Republicans, "Who are you going to vote for?" This bar chart is going to show the results of that poll as the months go by. We start in May 2015, and already 14 candidates are in the race. The leader is Jeb Bush, with 23% of Republicans saying they will vote for him. Marco Rubio is second, with 18% of the vote. By the June 2015 poll, Trump was in 9th place, with 4% of Republicans saying they would vote for him. There were 14 candidates at this time. By July 2015, Jeb Bush began to fade and Trump took the lead. But with 14 candidates, the lead went to the person that could get 19% of the vote. That means 81% of Republicans would rather vote for one of the other candidates. By October 2015, Ben Carson had moved into the lead, 26% to Trump's 24%. 6 of the candidates had decided they could not compete and dropped out of the race. By December 2015, Trump was the leader with 33% of the voters. That still means that 67% of the voters would prefer one of the other candidates. By February 2016, 11 more candidates had dropped out. Ted Cruz moved into the lead with 28%. In March 2016, former frontrunners Bush and Carson dropped out. Trump kept the lead with 30%. Then in mid-March, former frontrunner Marco Rubio dropped out, and that left 3 candidates in the race. Trump secured the Republican nomination, even though 60% of Republicans preferred one of the other candidates. And that's the story of how Trump got the nomination under Choose One voting rules. Fortunately, the Wall Street Journal survey asked a second question. The question was, who could you support? This is very similar to the question, who do you approve of? Which is how an approval voting election is handled. Furthermore, the Republicans were allowed to answer this question with as many candidates as they wanted, which is also the way approval voting works. The next bar chart shows the results of these polls. The polling data begins in March of 2015 with 14 candidates in the race. At that time, Rubio was in first place with 56% of Republicans approving of him. Trump was in 12th place, with 23% of Republicans approving of him. 3 more people would announce their candidacy in the coming months. They show with 0 approval at this time. During the month of March, Rubio and Bush gained in approval, while Trump went from 12th place to 11th place. By June, 17 candidates had entered the race, and Rubio was still in first. Trump was in 10th place. By September, Carson had overtaken Rubio for first place. Carly Fiorina was in third, and Trump was in fourth. By January 2016, Cruz had moved ahead of Rubio, and Trump was in third place. Many candidates would drop out during this month because they were not viable under the Choose One voting method. Rubio, Cruz, and Carson were in first, second, and third, while Trump took fourth. During the month of March, Rubio dropped out and Kasich made a big advance. In April, it was time to select the Republican nominee. Under approval voting, Cruz was in first, with Kasich and Trump tied for second. However, the election was conducted using the Choose One voting method. Trump became the Republican nominee, even though he was never in first by the number of people that could support or approve him. Here's a comparison of the data from the last week of Choose One voting and approval voting. As a general rule, approval voting tends to promote consensus candidates, while Choose One voting tends to promote vocal minorities. This analysis was done with the data from the Republican primary. A similar analysis could be performed for the Democratic candidates. The effects of Choose One voting don't care whether you're a Republican or Democrat. As a general rule, watch out for primaries. They tend to have many people running, and the person selected in the primary is often not the one with the most support. The next slide compares what the Republican ballot looked like with what it would have looked like under approval voting. As you can see, an approval voting ballot looks a great deal like our current Choose One ballot. Only the instructions at the top are changed from vote for one to vote for all candidates you approve of. The candidate with the most approvals wins. This simple change allows you to express yourself more fully. You can always vote for your favorite without fear of causing an unwanted candidate to be elected. Each candidate gets an indication of how much support they had. As a bonus, you don't have to modify your voting machines, and counting the votes is trivial. Here are links to the survey data that was used in this video. The surveys were commissioned by NBC and the Wall Street Journal and performed by the Hart Group. If you would like to learn more about voting methods, then visit the website for the Center for Election Science. It has information on every aspect of voting. If you would like to help bring approval voting to California, visit californiaapproves.org. If you don't live in California, check with electionscience.org. There are approval voting chapters in most of the states of the Union. This Trump nomination saga is just one of the many interesting stories that can be told about the effects of our Choose One voting method. I hope to tell more of them in the future, but bye for now.